Welcome to Books Podcast. Join us for quick, insightful, big reviews and summaries that inspire and inform. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Dinaw Mengestu's Someone Like Us.
Ah, this one's great.
Yeah, it's a novel that earned a spot on the New York Times notable books list. So, it's the kind of book that really makes you think. We'll be exploring the intricacies of identity family secrets that always seem to surface and the undeniable grip of the past.
Right. What's so fascinating about this book is that it doesn't just tell a story.
Yeah.
It invites you into a world where the lines between who we are, who want to be, and who we're expected to be are constantly blurring.
I like that.
Our main character, Mamush, is the son of Ethiopian immigrants.
Good.
He's navigating a failing marriage and reeling from the sudden death of Samuel.
Right.
A prominent figure in his childhood Ethiopian community in Washington, D.C. It's like the foundation of his life has suddenly cracked open.
And it's interesting how Mengestu drops us right into this pivotal moment in Mamush's life.
Yeah.
We learn he left behind a promising journalism career.
Right.
And even tried to build a new life in Paris.
Yeah.
But something pulls him back to his roots in D.C. Feels like he's running from something, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The move to Paris, his relationship with Hannah, the photographer who represents a complete break from his past.
Yeah.
It all points to this deep yearning for reinvention.
Right.
But as his marriage crumbles, it becomes clear that you can't outrun your past. It's almost like Samuel's death acts as a magnet, drawing Mamush back to confront not just the mystery surrounding Samuel, but also the unresolved conflicts within himself.
Yeah. Let's talk about Samuel.
Yeah.
He's such a compelling character.
Yeah.
Even in death. He casts this long shadow over the entire story, revered by the Ethiopian community, yet there are hints of a darker, more complex side to him.
Right.
It's almost Shakespearean.
Yeah.
The way his public persona and his private reality clash.
Yeah. It's like the community built him up as this flawless hero.
Yeah.
But beneath the surface, there were cracks, secrets,
Right.
and perhaps even deep-seated insecurities.
Yeah.
And when those cracks are exposed, it sends shockwaves through everyone who knew him.
Right.
For Mamush, it becomes this personal quest to reconcile the idealized image of Samuel with the flawed reality, a quest that leads him down a rabbit hole of family secrets and hidden truths.
I'm curious about this idea of the idealized image versus reality,
Okay.
especially in the context of Mamush's family.
Right.
We see this strained relationship with his mother,
Yeah.
who is depicted as stoic
Yeah.
and emotionally distant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's this wall between them
Yeah.
built from years of unspoken feelings and cultural expectations.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a common thread in the immigrant experience?
I do.
This struggle to connect across generational and cultural divides?
I think you've hit on something really important. It's like they're speaking different languages, even though they're using the same words. Mamush's mother represents that older generation holding on to traditions, perhaps out of a sense of preservation.
Yeah.
While Mamush is caught in this in-between space, trying to reconcile his heritage with his desire to forge his own path. And Samuel's death, I think, forces him to confront the weight of these unspoken expectations, the burden of fulfilling an image within his community.
So we have Mamush struggling with his identity,
Right.
grappling with a crumbling marriage, and now he's pulled back into the orbit of his family and community by this mysterious death.
Yeah.
It feels like the stage is set for a profound journey of self-discovery, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's not just an internal journey. Mengestu cleverly mirrors Mamush's inner turmoil in the deliberate pacing of the novel. It's not a fast-paced thriller.
Right.
It's a slow burn, allowing us to experience the weight of his contemplation, the gradual unraveling of truth, and the simmering tension between holding on and letting go.
Yeah, I see that.
This makes the reader, you feel like you're right there alongside Mamush as he embarks on a physical journey across America in search of answers about Samuel.
Oh, wow.
What's so compelling is how this physical journey becomes a metaphor for his internal struggle, a process of peeling back layers of memory, family history, and the idealized image of Samuel he's clung to for so long.
It's interesting how you mentioned the slow burn and the peeling back of layers.
Yeah.
It seems like Mengestu deliberately uses that pacing to mirror Mamush's own emotional repression, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
This inability to fully confront his feelings, his past, even his own desires, seems to be a driving force in the story.
That's a really insightful observation. It's as though Mamush and perhaps even his mother are trapped in this cycle of unspoken emotions, anxieties, buried under layers of duty and cultural expectations. It makes you wonder, how can someone truly understand themselves if they're afraid to even acknowledge their own feelings? And how can you connect with others when those emotions are constantly being held back? This repression, I think, is a key that unlocks a deeper understanding of not only Mamush's individual struggle, but also the dynamics within his family and community.
And speaking of the community, we can't overlook the way someone like us portrays the Ethiopian immigrant experience.
Right.
There's this constant tension between the desire to assimilate into American culture and the need to preserve their heritage. It's a struggle that so many immigrant communities face, and I think Mengestu captures it beautifully.
He really does. We see this tension play out in the generational divide between Mamush and his mother, in the subtle judgments and expectations within the community. And in the way Samuel, despite being a pillar of that community, also represents a certain degree of assimilation. And as Mamush returns, it's not just a homecoming, it's a confrontation with the changes, the losses, and the evolving identity of the Ethiopian community in America. It makes you question, what does it truly mean to belong? And what sacrifices do we make in pursuit of that belonging? And as Mamush delves deeper into this mystery surrounding Samuel, he stumbles upon another layer of complexity, addiction. It's not just Samuel who struggled with this, but the ripple effect of that struggle is felt throughout the community, and particularly within Mamush's own family.
This element of addiction really adds another dimension to the story. It's not just a personal struggle, but something that has impacted generations, leaving scars that are both visible and invisible. I'm curious, how do you think this theme ties into the larger themes of identity and belonging that we've been discussing?
It's like addiction becomes a manifestation of this underlying tension. A way of coping with the pressures of assimilation, the weight of cultural expectations, and perhaps even the unspoken traumas that many immigrants carry with them. For Mamush, witnessing the devastating effects of addiction forces him to confront not only Samuel's flaws, but also the potential for darkness within himself. It's like he's looking into a mirror and questioning, could I succumb to those same demons? Could the pain of displacement and the struggle for belonging lead me down that same path?
It's almost as if addiction becomes a symbol of the fragility of identity. The way external pressures and internal struggles can push someone to the brink. And this fragility seems to be reflected in Mamush's marriage as well. We see the cracks widening as he grapples with his own identity crisis. Do you think there's a connection between his inability to truly connect with his wife and his struggles with his cultural heritage?
That's a really interesting observation. It's as though he's trying to build a life on a foundation that's constantly shifting. On one hand, he's drawn to Hannah because she represents a break from his past, a chance to reinvent himself outside the expectations of his community. But on the other hand, he can't fully escape the core of his roots. The unspoken ties that bind him to his family and his heritage. It's this internal conflict, this inability to reconcile these different parts of himself that ultimately undermines his marriage.
So it's not just that he's running from his past. It's that he's trying to build a future without fully acknowledging the past's influence on who he is. And perhaps Samuel's death forces him to confront that disconnect, to realize that you can't simply erase your history. You have to integrate it into your present.
Exactly. And this idea of integration versus erasure, I think, is central to understanding not only Mamush's personal journey, but also the larger immigrant experience. It's about finding a way to honor your heritage while also embracing new possibilities to create a sense of belonging that encompasses both where you come from and where you're going.
That makes me think about the ending of the novel, which, without giving too much away, is quite ambiguous. We don't get a neatly tied-up resolution. Instead, Mamush's future is left somewhat open, with many questions unanswered. Why do you think Mengestu chose to end the story this way?
I think the ambiguity of the ending is intentional. It mirrors the complexities of life itself, where there are rarely simple answers or easy solutions.
Right.
It's like Mengestu is saying,
Yeah.
here's what I've shown you about this character, his struggles, his growth, and his choices.
Mm-hmm.
Now you, the reader, must grapple with the implications, the uncertainties,
Right.
and the potential for both hope and despair that exist in the space between what we know and what remains unknown.
It's almost as if he's inviting us, the readers,
Yeah.
to become active participants in the story,
Right.
to contemplate the different paths Mamush might take,
Mm-hmm.
and to reflect on how those paths might resonate with our own lives and choices.
Precisely. And that's what makes Someone Like Us such a compelling and thought-provoking read.
Mm.
It's not just a story about one man's search for identity, but a reflection on the universal themes of belonging, loss, forgiveness, and the enduring power of the past. Mengestu doesn't shy away from difficult questions or uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
Instead, he presents them with a delicate balance of empathy and unflinching honesty,
Right.
allowing us to draw our own conclusions and to find meaning in the spaces between the lines.
And what's so powerful about this novel is that it doesn't offer easy answers.
Right?
Or paint a romanticized picture of the immigrant experience.
Yeah.
It delves into the raw, sometimes messy realities of cultural clashes, generational divides, and the emotional toll that displacement can take on individuals and families. It makes you question those preconceived notions we often have about what it means to belong, to assimilate, and to preserve one's heritage.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Mengestu doesn't shy away from depicting the struggles, the sacrifices,
Yeah.
and the internal conflicts that many immigrants face. We see this in Mamush's internal struggle to reconcile his Ethiopian heritage with his desire for a new life in Paris. And we see it in his mother's stoicism, which can be interpreted as both a strength and a barrier to deeper emotional connection.
Right.
There's a rawness and an honesty to these portrayals that I think resonates deeply with anyone who has grappled with questions of identity and belonging.
And for those who haven't personally experienced that kind of cultural displacement,
Right.
I think Someone Like Us offers a valuable window into a world that is often misunderstood or misrepresented.
Yeah.
It invites us to walk in Mamush's shoes, to feel the weight of his family's history,
Right.
and to confront the complexities of his search for identity in a society that often defines belonging in narrow terms.
What's also remarkable is the way Mengestu uses language to create a sense of place and atmosphere.
Okay.
His descriptions are so vivid and evocative that you feel like you're right there with Mamush.
Okay.
Whether he's navigating the bustling streets of Washington, D.C.,
Right.
or revisiting the quiet countryside of Ethiopia in his memories.
Yes. I loved how he captured the sights, the smells, and the sounds of the Ethiopian community in D.C. It felt like I was stepping into a different world, a world rich in tradition, community, and a deep sense of connection to their homeland.
And that sense of connection, I think, is what ultimately draws Mamush back to his roots.
Yeah.
Despite his attempts to create a new life elsewhere.
Right.
It's as though the threads of his past, his family's history, and the legacy of figures like Samuel are woven into the very fabric of his being. He can try to distance himself physically, but those connections remain,
Yeah.
pulling him back to confront the unresolved conflicts and to find a way to integrate his past into his present.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Someone Like Us,
Okay.
what would you say is the most significant takeaway for our listeners?
Oh, that's a great question.
What's the one thing you hope they'll carry with them after engaging with this story?
I think the most profound takeaway is the understanding that identity is not a fixed point,
Right.
but a journey, a constant process of evolution and integration. It's about acknowledging the complexities of our heritage, the influences that shape us, and the choices we make in navigating the often conflicting expectations of family, community, and society at large.
Okay.
Someone Like Us reminds us that the search for belonging is not about fitting into a predefined mold,
Yeah.
but about embracing the unique tapestry of experiences that make us who we are.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners who are intrigued by this exploration of identity, family secrets, and the enduring power of the past, I highly encourage you to seek out Someone Like Us by Dinaw Mengestu. It's a novel that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page, prompting you to reflect on your own journey of self-discovery and the complexities of the human experience. Thanks for listening to Books Podcast. Enjoyed this episode, subscribe and share with fellow book lovers. Got a book suggestion? Let us know. Happy reading.